my favorite little projects to take on for seasonal decor is to take the little bird houses that are available widely at craft stores and give them a little decoration. This one here that I've got, I believe I'm going to leave its little hanger for at least for now. I've painted this white. You could paint it or leave it natural. I've also taken some PPA by US Art Quest. It's my all-around go-to matte finish adhesive sealant and all-around great for all the buttons, beads, and things found in my line. And I am working with my line, 28 Lilac Lane. And what I have here, I've got one of the jars. This is Birds of a Feather, which I thought would be perfect for my little birdhouse. And then over here, there's some bits and pieces from the attic kit. That you can see here that these two go together beautifully. A lot of the jars and the kits go together. I'm going to be working with these, and to start things off, I've already put a line of adhesive there. To start things off, I'm just going to take some of the buttons and some of the things and glue them onto the front. And I'm starting with this because I wasn't really sure where I wanted to begin here with this particular project. So I thought beginning with the trim on the front would help me kind of sort out what it is that I end up wanting to do. Sometimes that can help. And you know, this is just a lot of fun, and you can use an assortment. You could use all of the same kit or all of the same type of item. It's totally up to you. You could go off of the edge if you want. The only thing I recommend is here at the bottom, just kind of run your finger along there and make sure that you don't have anybody poking off the edge. Now, another thing I'm going to do along here is I'm going to come back in with a little adhesive and just kind of reinforce that there's plenty of adhesive along that bottom portion. And I'll show you why in just a moment here. I just need to find one other element that would be good here for this edge. I think I would like it to be a button. Oh, you know what? Here's a cute, oh, I don't want sparkle and sparkle. Okay, and you can see this one button, it was trying to fall over. If that happens, you can support it underneath with something like, for example, I could put a paintbrush under here if I was concerned about things falling over. The only thing you're going to want to make sure, there's a little gap. There's a little bit of space in there. That's important. You just want to make sure that no adhesive can get onto whatever it is that you're having supported there. So you know what? I'm going to use this little button. It's a little different. I just don't want any of the same buttons here. And then once everybody is glued down, I'm just going to move some things around here and get down to some of these wonderful little seed beads. And I'm going to get some of these because I'm going to just remember how I was making sure that we had plenty of adhesive down along there. These little seed beads, I will just run them along, and I don't want to push anybody up out of place for them. I just want to, wherever there's going to be a little gap or anything, just kind of make sure we fill that little gap with a little bead. And once I'm happy with that, I can move on, and I'm just going to repeat this process up top. And if I want, I really love these sparkly, glittery buttons, so I'm going to put one of those at the top and then just repeat with various buttons and things and fill the space. Once dry, I added a little bit of glitter glue around my two openings here. I also topped the little pegs here with pearls, and I'm continuing on with the edging in buttons. As you can see, I've got 3 of the sides done, and right down here, this is the part I'm going to demonstrate for you next. I've got pearls along here and a sequin roof. Okay, so I am going to use, I'm just using a sanding block. You don't need to use a sanding block, just something to prop that up just a little bit helps typically, otherwise it's just too far over. And then this is a double-sided sheet of adhesive, and what I like to do is I'll take it about 1/4 of an inch off to the side, as well as slightly below where I want it to be, and I will just trim this here. And once I have it straight, I'll just trim a little like so. And then basically you just want to make sure it's not going to hang off the edge. Then I will do the same with this side here, where the trick is getting it to hold still where you want it to hold still. You could also just leave a mark here. I'm going to do it this way. I'm Working upside down tends to work better for me. And again, just take your scissors, and once you get it started, usually you can just trim. You don't need to hold it up for the entire length of time. And what this will do is give us the perfect size little sheet. Now I'm going to have to trim out just a little bit here for my topper. Not a problem. We just make a little notch in the adhesive backing. And then for this one, it does have, there is a little seam here, so it makes it a little easier. Any double-sided adhesive would work. You could use liquid adhesive. The problem is it's a little trickier to work with liquid adhesive because it doesn't tend to hold things in place until it's at least partially dried or cured. So I find for something as light as sequins, I'm happier with the results. And as you can see, it's an almost perfect fit. It's very close to perfect. So I do not need the adhesive all the way to the very exact edge. I just need the adhesive over most of it. Once we're set, we pull that off. And then these are the sequins I've been working with, the sequins from this kit. So all I do now is start at the top, start at the bottom. It's up to you. I am going to start at the bottom here, and actually I'll stand it up now. Start at the bottom, and I'm not really trying to hang them over. I'm not going to pay attention to order either. I am absolutely not going to pay attention to if they're in any kind of perfect order or white or blue or whatever that is. If they hang over the edge a little on this bottom row, that's okay with me. If they don't, that's okay as well. I'm just getting it started here. So it's funny, but there's 3 different colors, and I find that most of the time I don't even have to really pay attention to what color's been used. It'll just kind of work out itself. So the real thing we're going to do here is we are just going to go through, and here's the thing that I find. Sometimes they overlap slightly, sometimes they don't. Really need to not stress about perfection of it, because here's the thing. It's gonna work itself out. You know, by the time we finish all the way, like you can see on this side, you're gonna just notice that there's lots of different colors. You're not gonna be sitting there counting if it's in a perfect alignment or perfect pattern. If you want to create a perfect pattern, you could, but you would really need to keep it going the entire time. So I guess that's the better advice, is just when you're working on this, decide ahead of time, do you want it to be a rotating pattern where it's this color, that color in a certain order, or are you okay with more of a random look? Once you've decided what works for you, then that's what you do, that's what you work with. And it's just a lot of fun. It is a little time consuming, I'm not gonna lie. It's gonna take you a little bit of time. Oh, maybe 15-20 minutes to get the one half of the roof done. So I am just gonna sit here and keep repeating. Now, if you get to an edge and there's a bit of a gap, I will usually just let there be a bit of a gap. It does kind of depend on what's exactly going on and what, you know, where the gap is, but either you can overlap it a bit or just be okay with the gap. It's going to work out. I promise you, you'll see. We just have to keep on adding those sequins. And a nice strong double-sided tape is great because that will just hold your sequins in place for you. This happens to be it happens to be the tacky double-sided adhesive sheet that I used. I like this because it's so small. It's card-sized, but I like it because that one little sheet now I can use for a bunch of littler projects. Now, if there are any gaps or spots that you're not happy with, don't worry about it right now. You're not going to need to worry about that yet, because what we're going to do right now is finish this side with our embellishing first, and then we're going to come back with a glossy glaze and do a few things that'll let us adjust. So what I'm doing right now, this is a double-sided tape, and I am just lining it up. The tape is not the width of the paper that it's on. It's about half that size. I'm just lining it up so that the tape part is indeed on my wood edge, and then just make sure it's down really good so that it'll peel off. There we go. And if any part is over the edge, you can just flick it a little bit there with your finger. And now we're going half pearls. And for the half pearls, I'm going with the light aqua color here from this kit. And I'm also going with these beautiful, I'm calling them champagne. I'm not sure what the what the technical term needs to be for these, but do love them. And I'm just going to alternate. And this is just, I like to add different colors, different textures, and all of that kind of, just, you know, mix it up a little here for our decorations, because I feel like what that does is it just really adds a lot overall to the project and just kind of makes it a fun thing for anyone who wants to look at it. Let's say it's up on your shelf. Oops, that's a color from a different kit. This is another good thing about the double-sided tape, is it is pretty forgiving, at least at first. When you stick something on, you can pick it off. So once we have got, I need a couple more of these lighter colors here. Once we have got them glued down into place, what we're going to do is finish this last border with buttons, and we are really making progress here. We really have, okay, now when I get to the end here, I can see that I actually have a little gap right there, but it's not enough that I would be able to put a full another pearl on here. So I'm going to be okay with that gap. I'm going to leave everybody as they are, and then we're going to repeat as we did on the front with the buttons all along here. And you can pick, we can pick smaller ones, we can pick whichever ones we like. And as you'll recall, if you need to, you can put, oh, and it's going to be harder this time though, because I have these buttons on the end. So if we need to, we can find something thin, or I guess not too thin, maybe a couple. Actually, that's probably my best bet. If I put a couple buttons under here just to prevent it from falling, that might help a little bit. But for the most part, the buttons we're going to use are pretty small. They shouldn't pose much of a problem. And I'm working out to in because that'll help me determine what I have space for, if I have space for more buttons, if I don't. If I get to a spot like what I have right here going on, where I don't quite have enough room even for a small button, here's what I'll do is I will replace this one with a little bit larger button. And then I'm going to put some adhesive on this smaller button. I could also put a pearl in there, but I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive on the back of this guy and just prop this tiny button up on the other buttons. And then again, just kind of gently press there to make sure nobody is going over the edge. Add a few little pearls in to any gaps that I've got. This is just such a fun project. These are so much fun, and you can do them for any season, for any colors, any season, and with any materials you like. So we're gonna have to let that fully dry before we finish this up. Now that everything is dry, we're ready for the final steps. And the first thing I'm going to do, I decided I wanted to stamp. I'm going to use an archival ink just because it's a color that I like and I think it's going to work well. And I've got this little unmounted bird stamp here. I thought about a flower, but I decided for the birdhouse, I'd rather have a little bird on here. And I do not want to mount this onto a stamp block, and I'll show you why. I'm just using my finger here to make sure that this is really inked up well. I can double check. Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to place it here. We're going to be very, very careful here. We're going to place it right here. And then we're going to hold that and bend the stamp so that we are stamping around the corner, as you can see. And with my fingers, it does take both hands very carefully. I am just pressing all over to make sure that it works. And look at that. We have a bird stamped on two sides of our birdhouse, as easy as that. Now, to finish this off, there's two different things I'm going to do. The first is that I'm going to add a second layer of buttons. I'm going to use bigger buttons, and I'm not going to do it around the whole thing, but I will put a bigger button. No, not so huge. I'll put a smallish button, but I'm going to put a layer of buttons just from the front and wrap around this side with the bird. That's all. And then I will put a layer of buttons, the same thing. The reason that I'm cutting a lot of this out of the video is because it's all the exact same process. You're going to put your matte finish liquid adhesive down, and then you're just going to line up whatever buttons you want along the edge. It is really that easy. It is really that simple. So I'm not going to continue to repeat that step because it is the same for all the way around the edge, all the way around the fronts. What I am going to show you finally here is that for the roof, because we want this to be good and sturdy, what we are going to do is, this is glossy PPA. So in other words, this is a liquid adhesive, but when it dries, it is super glossy. You could also use a glossy gel medium if you have something like diamond glaze or glossy accents. That would work as well. We don't need a lot. I'm just trying to run a bit of it around on my roof. And then I will just take a paintbrush here and very, very gently, because we don't want to dislodge our sequins. This is going to do two things for us. Number one, it's going to seal in those sequins so that they are stuck down, so that they are put in place for good. And that is very important because we certainly don't want them flaking off when we store this. Say this is a springtime decoration, if we store this for the winter or whatever. So that's good thing number one. Good thing number two, any spots where the adhesive sheet is exposed, when this dries, it will render that no longer sticky. So we're avoiding any sticky spots from the adhesive sheet. So that's really important and good as well. Now for your pearls, I would repeat this process as well. I would go ahead, because for the pearls, remember, this is a glossy, this is why glossy finish is important. If you have, like I said before, a gel medium that's a little on the loose side, in other words, it's not super heavy, super thick, that could work really well. I'm a big fan of use what you've got. I don't happen to have any, say, glossy accents or diamond glaze around at this time, so I'm going with the glossy finish liquid adhesive that I do have. And you're just going to repeat this process on both sides of the roof. Now I know right now it doesn't look super glossy or anything, super shiny. It will. At this point in time, this is also the final thing that I want to point out. At this point in time, if you want or need, if there's any spots on this roof where you went, oh goodness, you know, I really wish that I had a sequin, or there's a gap right here, this would be a very smart time to tuck an extra sequin in, because I'm using something that is in fact adhesive, it will hold anything down that you need held down. So if I've got a couple spots to touch up, a couple spots that are, let's say, blank and I don't want them blank, or I've noticed them now that I'm finished, not a problem. Super easy to fix, super easy to tuck a few extras in. Okay, so once done, we just flip it over and repeat the exact same process on the other side. So once this is done, and once I allow this to fully dry, then I will finish up by adding any last touch little buttons and accents as I please. So this is a really fun project. This is a really fun project to do with friends, by yourself, any season that you want. You'll definitely see me doing more of these with 28 Lilac Lane, because it is definitely one of my favorite little projects to do, and a favorite way to use up some leftover little buttons and things and decorate my house. I hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment on YouTube or come visit me over on my blog. I will see you next time.